Hey guys, I have a lot of Christian brothers and sisters that I know personally that happen to be Protestant evangelicals. You remember I was a Protestant evangelical for 30 years, so I still have these relationships. And without without exception, I believe they all love the Lord. They're all Christian brothers and sisters. Without exception, they're smart, intelligent people that we disagree. But their disagreements are based on their scriptural and historical understanding, and we debate this time to time, and sometimes we just fellowship. And I've seen on YouTube a lot of thoughtful Protestant Christians debate Catholics, and in my view, they get destroyed. But they're having honest debates about their belief in the Eucharist and baptism and authority of the church. These are like probably the three main things that keep people from being Catholic. But then every once in a while, in my comments section, I'll get the most ridiculous accusation of the Catholic Church. And I don't want to laugh at it. Sometimes I do. I write LOL, but they go on, and I address it, and I find myself in like a 40 reply thread and realize I'm dealing with someone involved in a cult that does not understand the basic history of the church. And it's hard to answer a question when someone asks you what the color yellow smells like. I think C.S. Lewis said that in his book Mere Christianity. And then sometimes that's what I feel like. I'm just spinning my wheels. And that's usually, like I said, the cults. And I'm going to address one of I've addressed, the big myth that's been debunked by every historian alive today with a PhD after his name about Constantine starting the Catholic Church or paganism being mixed in. Even, I always quote Protestant historian J.N.D. Kelly. He debunks this crazy myth. But it's usually, some cults like the Jehovah's Witness, the Mormons, or the Seventh-day Adventists. And I've had a lot, I did a couple videos on the Seventh-day Adventists on biblical beliefs. I mean, they believe in some crazy stuff like annihilation. They don't believe in eternity, eternal hell, and got a lot of crazy beliefs. And they seem to be the ones that attack us the most. Another man-made religion started in the 1800s. But I've addressed them, and I've had a lot of ex-Seventh-day Adventists offer to come on my show. I just haven't been able to coordinate it yet. So it might be best to have them explain how to witness and evangelize these people because they don't listen to the truth. But occasionally, you will get Christians that aren't involved in a cult. They're just evangelical, non-denominational, Protestant. They won't even call themselves anything. They just call themselves Christians. Will believe these myths. And you may have heard them, and they might be so ridiculous you don't even want to deal with them. But you got to deal with them. I mean, as I grew in my faith, I knew there were myths, and as I grew and studied church history and the scripture, I knew a lot of this stuff was myth, even though I didn't want to become Catholic because I thought they were a religion of works and not grace, which is wrong. I've addressed that in several videos. But there was a time when I was a young, immature Christian that I believed these ridiculous myths. So if someone didn't correct me, I may have believed it for 30 years. Who knows, So even though an accusation is ridiculous, I think we should still address it. So I'm going to address three that I recently got. Catholic Church killed more people than any organization on earth. The Catholic Church abused more children than any organization on earth. The Catholic Church is the richest organization on earth, and they don't help anybody. So for the first one, Catholic Church killed more people than any organization. According to historians, they're usually referring to the Crusades. According to historians, secular as well as religious, 3,000 to 5,000 people were killed during the Crusades. And you can argue if they were justified or not. But I'm just addressing that exact argument that the Catholic Church killed more people. According to historians, and according to Martin Luther, the father of the Reformation, the guy who broke away from the Catholic Church, he brags that he was responsible for the peasant war that killed 100,000 peasants. Martin Luther also said that every Jew should be killed and every synagogue burned to the ground, which Adolf Hitler, whether he truly was a believer in Martin Luther or not, used that for propaganda in Germany, because Martin Luther was from Germany and so was Adolf Hitler. Now, if you're an atheist, don't get too proud, because atheism killed a lot more. Martin Luther killed 100,000. You know, John Calvin was responsible for thousands of deaths, killing heretics. In fact, his own friend, Michael Servetus, he had burned at the stake. That's how he treated his friends who he thought were teaching heresy. So Protestant, you know, the Protestants were the one burning the witches in America, the Puritans. So the Protestants killed a lot more people than the Catholics. However, they have nothing on you atheists. In the name of atheism, communism, Stalin killed over 100 million, Mao 50 million, and we can go on and on. You know, the Protestant Christians killed in the tens of thousands. The atheists killed in the tens of millions. Then as far as child sex abuse, you know, that's the biggest stand on our church. The church committed horrible sins by allowing this to go on. But according to FBI statistics, in a 50-year period, there was 10,000 accusations against priests committing child sex abuse. According to Baz Tajidovin, an attorney who investigated child sex abuse amongst Protestant evangelical churches, and by the way, Baz Tajidovin was famous for his grandfather being Billy Graham. It's a solid, born-again evangelical Christian who loves the evangelical tradition, but he was an honest attorney, and he said, after 2 years of investigation, the child sex abuse problem amongst Protestant and evangelicals is 2 to 3 times worse than the Catholic problem ever was. That's coming from an evangelical who investigated it. Now, again, if you're an atheist, you might be saying, oh, all you Christians are child abusers. According to the United States Department of Education, an investigation done by Dr. Charles Shakeshaft from 1992 to 2002 said the Catholics and the Protestants have nothing on us. The U.S. Department of Education said in the public schools in a 10-year period, there were over 200,000 valid child sex abuse accusations against teachers in America. So the Catholic Church had 10,000 in a 50-year period, and 90% of them happened before the 1980s. The public schools was 200,000 in the 90s up to the 2000s. It's all evil. It's all be condemned, whether you're a Catholic priest who committed it or a Catholic bishop who hid it. You should spend the rest of your life in jail and the rest of eternity rotting in hell. If you were a pastor in an evangelical church, the same goes for you. Same goes for every school teacher. And you say, well, the Catholic Church covered it up. Well, what Baz Tajidovin found out was these church elders and church staffs were afraid of the money they would lose, and they covered it up too. Evil is evil, whether it's in the Protestant church or the Catholic church. Evil permeates organizations. But the worst evil was in a secular organization, the United States public education system, 200,000, and the principals and superintendents were caught hiding all this and moving teachers around, just like the evil bishops moved priests around. Then the argument, oh, the Catholic Church is loaded. You know, I knew a lot of pastors, and I knew the good ones. I knew a lot of good pastors, and I never felt they got paid enough for their education. Like I knew a guy with a PhD, and I think his pay was like $65,000 in New Jersey, which is, you know, not that much. But the average priest makes about $35,000. And then, you know, then you have no control in Protestantism. You have this young kid, Stephen Furtick, if you ever seen him, the kid who wears the $10,000 sneakers and the $20,000 jeans and gets the $500 girly haircut. This kid comes out of college, becomes a pastor, and by the age 30, he's able to buy a $3 million home without ever doing anything except talk about Jesus. This kid is probably worth $50 million today. Then you have Benny Hinn, even more than that. Kenneth Copeland brags he's worth over $1 billion. Do you know what the Pope, the leader of the largest and oldest Christian church in the world, makes? Pope Francis makes 3 coins a year. They give him a gold coin, a silver coin, and a bronze coin, and he's not even allowed to spend it. He's buried with these coins. They're just symbolic. He gets no salary. And you say, well, he lives in this big fancy mansion. Well, yeah, but Pope Francis chose a servant suite about as big as the average person's bathroom, because he believes he's a servant to the church. He's a servant to the people. And like I said, the average priest makes 35 to 40 grand a year. And you say, well, the church has so much money. They have so much money. He can spend whatever he wants. Well, the church, the Catholic Church, donates more money to charity than every charity in the world combined. That's what the Catholic Church does with all their money. Well, they have all this art. If they sold all this art, they can feed the poor. Well, we preserve this art for the whole world to see. You can be an atheist and come and enjoy this art. You can be a Muslim and come and enjoy our art. We preserve the art. When the Protestants were trying to destroy all the art because they thought it was idolatry, they were destroying in the 15th and 16th and 17th centuries. They were destroying Catholic art. They were destroying statues and Michelangelo paintings. They were burning. The Catholic Church preserved that for all of civilization to enjoy the beauty and the art. And as far as you have all these buildings and all this real estate worth millions. Yeah, but you got to pay taxes on it. That's why the Catholic Church has been selling off beautiful buildings, and us Catholics are mad. It's like we have beautiful architect buildings, and they're tearing them down and they're selling them because the church doesn't have enough money to keep them going. So that's enough. And it's funny because, I grew up in evangelical churches, Baptist churches, some Pentecostal churches. When you're evangelical, former evangelicals will attest to this in the comments. You bounce around, you figure we're all Christians. The one church that always turned me off, that I considered my brothers and sisters but thought they were way off, was the Word of Faith, like the Benny Hinns. And you would go there and all they would talk about is money. Give me money and you'll be blessed. And these are the guys like Benny Hinn that drives a different color Lamborghini every day. Just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous how these people live. But even the Baptist church and the Pentecostal churches that would condemn them. I mean, Jimmy Swaggart's son, I forget his name, but he's got a great YouTube video called Prosperity Pimps, where he just shows you biblically how wrong these guys, and he calls out Benny Hinn and Copeland by name. He's pretty harsh, but it's called Prosperity Pimps. Check out the video. But even those guys that condemn the excess in the Word of Faith movement, they talk about money quite a bit. I mean, every time, even in like a Baptist church, who will say we're no longer under the law, we're under grace, we're saved by faith alone. When it comes to the Old Testament law of the tithe, when that plate goes around, they will read Old Testament scriptures that say, if you don't tithe, you're going to be cursed. So you're saved, once saved, always saved, but you'll be cursed on earth if you don't tithe. And it's funny because my oldest son is still evangelical, goes to a really solid Baptist church, really good preacher. But he was visiting our church for a while, and I said to him, he goes, it's weird because I always hear the Catholic Church is like money hungry. He said, they haven't mentioned money once, and he was to like 8 different services. They just pass the plate around while we're singing, and nobody mentions money. He thought that was very odd, and he's not a Word of Faith guy. He comes from, like I said, a traditional Baptist background. I was Pentecostal and charismatic, not a nation. When he was younger, and as he got older, we got more involved with the Baptists, and he stuck with them. And now due to COVID, they don't even pass the plate around anymore. You walk in, and there's a box right there if you want to donate. Nobody's between you and God. Nobody asks. Nobody knows nothing. And I've had friends say, I went once and they had 2 collections. They're so money hungry. But our church occasionally will do that. They used to do that. They don't do it anymore because, like I said, you just drop it in there. But one was for the school, So just think about it. Did that place have a church school? Sometimes it was for missionaries, helping, poor people in Haiti, So that's what the second collection was. But a lot of people are like, oh, Catholics, they take 2 collections. But the Catholic Church, like I said, gives more to charity than all the other charities combined. So There's a lot more I can say on this subject, but just be thankful, if you're Catholic, that you belong to the church that Jesus Christ established in Matthew 16, 18, and 19. We have an unbroken chain from St. Peter to Pope Francis, from the apostles to every bishop, and they can trace their lineage right back. We are the church that Jesus started. We are not perfect, but like I've said before, if you find the perfect church, don't go, because you'll ruin it. Sometimes we're in need of reform, and we reform from within. St. Francis of Assisi knew that. Many great saints knew that, but they didn't break away in schism like Martin Luther. You know, and just what is the fruit of Martin Luther's schism? Well, not only is Protestant broke up to 42,000 different denominations, but within the one denomination that Luther started, Lutheran, there's about 40 different kind of Lutherans. And the evangelical Lutherans in Germany just ordained their first transgendered bishop. So that's the fruit of Martin Luther's schism. I've heard it said before, it wasn't a reformation, it was a deformation. So be thankful and stay Catholic.